You know that feeling when you're at the end of a free trial and the thought of canceling it just feels wrong? Or how you'd fight tooth and nail to keep something you already have, even if you wouldn't have paid that much for it in the first place? Well, that's not a bug in your brain. It's a feature. Today, we're diving into a psychological trigger so powerful it can make or break a product. It's called the Endowment Effect. And once you understand it, you'll never look at sales, value, or even your own decisions the same way again. You see, the greatest strategic failure in marketing is what we call the acquisition trap. It's this belief that people buy things because they want them, but the neurological fact is they actually buy things because they are afraid of losing what they already feel they own. This one idea, it's the key to everything. It flips marketing on its head, revealing that the best way to sell something isn't to convince someone to buy it, but to first make them feel like it's already theirs. So this brings up a pretty radical question, right? What if all that time spent listing features and talking about benefits is missing the point? What if the real engine behind a sale isn't what your product can do, but how a person feels about the idea of losing it? Now, this isn't about some kind of trickery. It's about working with our human psychology, not against it. So let's get into it. Okay, so here's our game plan. First, we're going to tear down the big mistake most companies make, the acquisition trap. Then we'll build up the solution by engineering what we call psychological ownership. We'll get into the fascinating science of loss that makes this all tick, explore the hidden value of a customer's own effort, and finally, wrap it all up in a practical framework you can actually use. First things first, we have to talk about the invisible wall that most marketing runs headfirst into. This is the acquisition trap, and it's based on this really flawed idea that your job is to convince a customer to add something new to their life. But that approach completely misunderstands how our brains actually weigh a decision to buy. Every single sale faces this hidden barrier, transaction friction. And it's not just about the price, it's a deep mental block. Our brains are hardwired to feel the sting of a loss, like spending money, way more intensely than the joy of a gain. So when you ask someone to buy something, you're asking their brain to accept a definite, immediate pain for a future gain that's only potential. You are, quite literally, fighting biology. And this slide just lays it out perfectly. Look at the two paths. On the left, you've got the standard acquisition mindset. It's all about adding something new. And what does that do? It immediately triggers the pain of paying. The customer's emotional stake is super low. It's your thing, not theirs. But on the right, with the endowment mindset, you're working with the brain. The focus shifts to keeping something. This triggers the much, much more powerful fear of losing. And just like that, the emotional stake is through the roof. So if fighting the brain is a losing battle, what's the alternative? How do we work with it? Well, the answer is to deliberately engineer a sense of ownership before a single dollar changes hands. And you do this through a structured process we call the virtual possession loop. The whole goal here is to create psychological ownership. This isn't just some fuzzy marketing term. It's a real mental state where a person's brain switches an item from the company's product category to the my tool category. And the second that happens, its value in their mind just explodes. Think about a free software trial. On day one, it's that new project management tool. But after you've set up your projects, invited your team, and customized your dashboards, it becomes my system. And the urge to protect that system becomes incredibly strong. So, how do you actually engineer this state? It's not random. It's a three-part system. First, you set a psychological anchor, making the product feel like theirs right away. Second, you tap into a powerful cognitive bias called the IKEA Effect by getting them to invest their own effort. And finally, you close by framing the purchase not as a gain, but as an act of preservation. That's the loss aversion close. All right, step one, psychological anchoring. This is the real reason for a free trial or a test drive. It's not just about showing off features. Its main job is to transfer that feeling of possession. You want the user to stop thinking, what can this thing do? And start thinking, how will I use my new tool? It's why a car dealer wants you to get in, adjust the mirrors, and picture yourself driving to work. Once that anchor is set, the endowment effect is officially in motion. And that leads right into step two, the IKEA effect. We've all been there, right? You struggle for hours to build that bookshelf, and suddenly it's your most prized piece of furniture. Well, the same thing happens with software. When a user puts in their own effort, importing contacts, setting up integrations, customizing a layout, they're not just using the product. They are literally pouring a piece of their identity into it. It's not a generic tool anymore, it's a system they helped build. And this is where it all comes together. The final critical move, the loss aversion close.
After they've anchored the product as their own and invested their time and effort, the sale completely changes. It's no longer about buying something new. The whole story flips. Now, you're just asking them to take one small step to avoid losing all their hard work, their custom setup, their data, their progress. The purchase becomes an act of protection. The question is no longer, is this worth buying? It's, can I really afford to lose everything I've built?
Okay, this all sounds pretty clever, but it's not just theory. This is all grounded in decades of Nobel Prize-winning research. So let's look at the two big scientific ideas that give the endowment effect its power: prospect theory and this concept of the extended self. First up is prospect theory, from the brilliant minds of Daniel Kahneman and Amos Tversky. What they discovered was a fundamental truth about us. We are not rational beings. We are emotionally biased, loss-avoiding creatures. Their work showed over and over again that the emotional pain of losing something is about twice as strong as the pleasure of gaining that exact same thing. We are just wired to avoid loss. This chart makes it super clear. Let's say finding $100 gives you 10 units of happiness. Well, losing that same $100 is going to cause you about 20 units of pain. It's a 2-to-1 ratio. And that imbalance is the engine that drives the endowment effect. By framing a sale not as a gain, but as preventing a loss, you're tapping into the much more powerful force that governs our choices. The second piece of the puzzle, which pairs perfectly with the IKEA effect, is the concept of the extended self. The idea here is that we don't just have our most important possessions, they become part of who we are. I mean, think about your smartphone. It's not just a phone, is it? It's your memories, your connections, your personality, all in one device. Losing it would feel like losing a piece of yourself. That's exactly what happens when someone invests their effort into a product. It becomes a part of their digital self. So let's just double-click on this idea of effort, because this is so critical. If our things become part of our identity, then the effort we put into them is the glue that makes them stick. That act of building, of customizing, it's not a hassle for the user. It's the most important feature you have for creating real, tangible value in their mind. And this is where that magic mental shift happens. A generic piece of software becomes my workflow. A standard website theme becomes the site I built. You hear that? That little switch from the to my is everything. It signals that the user has gone from being a consumer to being a co-creator. And get this isn't just a gut feeling. They've actually measured it. Studies on the IKEA effect showed that the simple act of building or customizing something can make you value it 2 to 3 times more. That means the effort a user puts in during a trial isn't friction. It's an investment that multiplies the product's value, making the decision to keep it feel like a no-brainer.
All right, so we've got the psychology down. Now for the fun part. How do we actually put this to work? This isn't about just hoping it happens. It's about systematically building the conditions for psychological ownership to take root. So, how can you apply this stuff? It really comes down to 3 big steps. First, run a pseudo-ownership audit. Look for every single opportunity to let a potential customer use and interact with your product as if they already own it. Second, actively incentivize them to invest their own labor. Don't just give them a blank canvas. Guide them to build something that feels personal and valuable during their trial. And third, you have to frame your close as an act of protection. Look at all your emails, your buttons, your sales copy, and swap out the language of getting with the language of keeping. And here are some real-world examples of that language shift. Instead of a button that says, buy now, try, maintain your access. Instead of an email listing the features you'll get, the headline should be, protect your custom setup. You see how phrases like don't lose your progress or keep the results you've built are all focused on stopping a negative outcome? That's tapping directly into that powerful, hardwired fear of loss. Look, if you walk away with just one single idea today, please let it be this. People don't buy what they need, they keep what they already have. We are wired by evolution to protect our resources, not necessarily to go out and acquire new ones. The endowment effect is just what happens when you apply that ancient, powerful logic to the modern world. The strongest bond a customer can have with a product isn't desire, it's ownership. And that brings us to the final thought. The best marketing doesn't feel like marketing. It doesn't push you through a funnel. It pulls you toward value that you've already helped create. It works, not by convincing you to buy something new, but by making you feel like an owner from the very first click, and then simply asking if you'd like to keep what is already yours.